Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope that you're doing really well in this moment, and that whenever or wherever you happen to be on the globe at the moment that you hear this recording, that you are growing in your relationship with the prime creator of the universe. Some of you call her God. Somebody out there calls her Jah or Ra, Yahweh, Allah, whatever you call it, her, him, them, mother, father, God, whatever words you are the most comfortable with. I hope that you are growing in relationship with that from which you come, that you are. I wanted to read to you a Daniel Scranton channeling from the 9th Dimensional Arcturian Council. Same guys that I channel for the most part. I don't know if they're all the exact same council, but I think they are. This just came out today. He always channels it on his YouTube channel, and then if you don't want to hear it, because it's almost painful to listen to him channeling sometimes, because he's a direct channel. They take over his body. And his voice is normally very deep, but when he's channeling them, it's very high-pitched, and it's really hard to follow because he talks and fits and starts. Not unlike Captain Kirk, which I don't mind normally, but anywho, this is called a wave of energy from the source energy dimension. So he basically starts off, greetings. We are the Arcturian Council. We are pleased to connect with all of you. We have been experiencing a wave of energy that's been coming from source and has been rippling through the dimensions of this universe. We have noticed the effect that this source energy wave has had upon us. And we understand that this has nothing to do with your solstice, because the universe is much bigger than one planet and their calendar and sun activity. This wave to the universe, because Source is, of course, very aware of the universal shift in consciousness that is occurring throughout this universe. And Source also wants to be a part of the experience. Source benefits from all that we're doing, feeling, experiencing, and of course, Source likes to give back in the same way that you are more likely to give something to someone once they've given you something, or given something to you. It is the concept of reciprocity that you have here on Earth. There on Earth. Source has given all of us this wave of energy to soothe us, and to remind us that we have so much support there in the source energy dimension. We are not alone, just as you are not alone. We have help coming from the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensions, as well as the help that we have coming from Source. We encourage you to acknowledge the moments that you feel most supported on your journeys. It's good to take some of the weight off of your shoulders. You do create 100% of your reality, but you also have help, support, and wisdom coming from higher dimensions to help you create the reality that you desire to experience. This source energy wave is helping beings all across our universe, and we are excited to witness the evolution of consciousness of all systems, planets, and beings that is certain to be the end result of this wave of energy from Source. You, we, and all others in this universe are, of course, aspects of Source. But until we return to the Source energy dimension, we will not be able to experience fully what it is likely to be Source. What it is like to be Source. Like, we don't know what it's like to be God, basically. Sorry, I read that weird. And that gives us something to continue to move towards and feel excited about. You're going to experience changes as a result of this wave. And those changes will begin, as always, with your consciousness. And then you will see a change in your approach to life, to each other, and even a change in your relationship with Source. That is certainly a relationship worth exploring. As non-physical beings, it's easier for us to cultivate that relationship, but for you to have something intangible, non-physical to chat with and feel for is a much different experience. This wave is going to make it seem a lot more like a good idea to all of you. And so hopefully will this transmission have that effect. We are the Arcturian Council, and we have enjoyed connecting with you. So I thought that was interesting because we've been feeling all these waves come at us, and it kind of brought home to me that, oh yeah, duh. It's not like God is only trying to help the earthlings and no one else in the universe. Obviously, he loves everyone equally, not only on this planet, but on all the planets and in all the dimensions. He, she, it, they probably love everybody equally, no matter if they have tentacles or purple skin or gray skin with big black eyes, or they look like teddy bears or cat-headed people. You know, God loves us all very equally. And of course, he would send us a reward. We've all been working on ourselves. As above, so below. As below, so above. God wants to come back to himself. Now, it's going to take probably thousands of years. I mean, we have to go to the fifth dimension first, and it's going to be a lot of years before we go up consciously to like the seventh or even the ninth. We're not going to be where the Arcturians are for a very, very long time. Not in our lifetimes, just to be honest. So I wanted to bring that home. I mean, not only because this is Hanukkah and tomorrow is Christmas Eve. It's not because of the religious stuff. God doesn't really care about the religion thing. The religion thing is for men, for humans. You know, humans created religion to have God there, you know, to create that connection that he automatically felt. You know, we all have it. We just don't always, you know, a lot of people that don't believe or they're not religious, and I don't blame people for not being religious. It's truly not required. But, you know, I don't know. I don't blame people for not being religious at all. And some people won't believe at all, but there is like kind of a connection to nature at the very minimum. If you're in touch with your heart and you feel that you are at one with your soul, you're going to feel a connection to something, a greater power, a higher power than you. I mean, that's just been my experience, and that's been the experience of the people around me, even people who didn't believe. You know, I went to see Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan with 3 atheists, and I'm like, well, what is this guy singing? And they're like, we don't know. It's just really damn good music. We like it. Makes us feel uplifted. They use the word uplifted. We just really like it. You know, it's like really cool. I mean, I was in my 20s and all of these guys were in their 20s. They're all like a couple years younger than me, but it was just like, yeah, let's go to this cool world beat, world music. This is so cool. Oh my God. So we get there. And I'd only ever heard Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan's music on CDs that we got at, now looking back, I think it was a Muslim store for Islamic supplies. And then they had some food, like some snacks from like the Middle East. And my boyfriend at the time loved like Turkish and Arabic coffee, and he wanted to go out and try, branch out a little bit. We lived in LA, so, or in the valley, just north of LA. And we just wanted to, we were curious, what's this store? This is interesting. Let's go in here. And he found the CDs, like, oh, this looks interesting. Let's listen to it. Listened to it. We went back and got a couple more of his albums. We're like, this guy's really good. We had no idea who he was, what he's all about. And I'll tell you more and more about my connection with him. I'll probably do a whole show on it, but they didn't know, and they were atheists. They didn't believe. They said, well, kind of, we're agnostic. We're not really saying there's for sure not a God, but we're pretty sure there's not, but we're not really sure there's not. So let's just be agnostic, which is, when you're agnostic, it's like, oh God, if there is a God, let my soul, if I have a soul, go to heaven, if there is a heaven. Best way that Dr. Smith told me that, or told our class that at Cal State University of Northridge in a class that we were taking. We thought that was hilarious, but that's exactly what it is. So they were kind of agnostic, leaning towards atheism. And so we went to this Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan concert, and we were listening to music, and it was pretty good. It was awesome. It was all right. And Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was there on the stage, but we were so far away. And this is what's really freaky. We were in a blue pyramid, a cobalt blue pyramid at Long Beach State University. Really trippy stuff. So anyway, we were listening, and we're like, it's weird. His music is so much better on the CD. I don't get it. And it was like one song came by, and another song, and we're like, he's not as good as we thought. And then wait a minute, oh my God, he wasn't singing at all. It was his cousin, Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, was singing. But when Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was singing, everybody stopped. Our hearts skipped a beat, and we were just like, it was just like a presence. Like if you were in the Pentecostal church, you'd say the spirit of the Holy Spirit came over me. It was that kind of a feeling. It was just eerie. It was a hot day. It was a hot auditorium, pyramid. And all of a sudden we all got the chills. And my boyfriend, his best friend, and his best friend's brother, we all stood up immediately like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this music is just, it was transcendent. And this man single-handedly lifted everybody up and out of their seats. And we were all just blown away. And I was crying, and I was a little bit embarrassed because I didn't want them to see me, because I thought they'd make fun of me. And finally I got brave. I wiped my tears away, and I got brave, and I looked at them, and they were all in tears, just streaming down their faces. They were like, this man is incredible. And my boyfriend's friend turned to me, and he looked at me, and he said, you know that I don't believe in God, but I feel that through this man's voice, if God exists, he's just touched my soul. And he goes, I think I need to rethink the idea that God might not be real. And I mean, he was just face was red. Tears were just his shirt was getting wet. He was crying so much. We were all crying. Everyone was crying. I looked around the auditorium. Everyone was crying. He channeled the voice of God. And this is years before he did that album with Peter Gabriel for the Last Temptation of Christ. But there are certain things in this life, in this world, that bring you to your knees spiritually, where you feel it in your soul, or brings you upliftment. It brings you up. You're sitting on the chair, and now all of a sudden you're up. By the third song, we were all dancing and we couldn't help it. And we were just like, oh my gosh, and there were guys dressed in thobes. They were down next to the stage and they were throwing money at him. I mean, not coins, not like beaming him or something, not beating him really hard, but no, they were throwing 20s and 100s and 50s onto the stage because it was just, what is money compared to this voice, right? And he was from Pakistan, and he sang in the language Urdu, and I didn't understand it, but there was a guy behind me who was from Iran. He spoke Farsi, and he spoke a couple other languages from various countries where Islam is. And he sat and he kind of like leaned into me and whispered in my ear all of the words of what he was saying. And it dawned on me that all of his music was about finding God and being a spiritual mystic. And even though my friends didn't speak Urdu, they felt it in their souls, right? So that's one example. Another example is when I went to Denver, Colorado, and my friend met me there, and he drove in his hot blue Mustang. Oh my God, what a sexy car that is. Had the racing seats that fit my back perfectly. It was like a phenomenal ride, And I flew there from California. And so we drove all over. We stayed for like a week before this 3-day seminar we were going to, because we had a business we're both doing, and we both had people in Colorado. So we had business meetings, and we were helping people build their business, basically. We were consulting with people and just helping people figure things out, and loving and supporting and encouraging them. So we did that, and we took a drive one day. We took a day off, and we drove out to Boulder, and it was just so incredibly beautiful, like the sky and the pure air and the mountains. And then we dipped down, like we were driving above the tree line, then we dipped down a little bit and saw all the green trees, and I just started weeping uncontrollably. I could not stop. And he's like, what did I say? Are you mad at me? Oh my God, are we in a fight? Like, he got really uncomfortable. I'm like, no, oh my God, you're my best friend. I love you. No, nothing like that. And he's like, so what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you crying? I'm like, I just like, look at this place. He's all, yeah, I love it here. I've come out here skiing quite a bit. I love it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You can't be here in this place and doubt the existence of God. And I'm having like this deep spiritual God experience. I couldn't even speak for a few minutes when he was like freaking out for a while. And I'm just like, you can't be here without knowing. You just have a knowing. There's certain places and certain experiences that we have that builds our relationship with God. And some of the first experiences are the ones that bring the knowing inside. And so I had that knowing energy, feeling, and he looked at me and he goes, I have to confess something to you. And I go, what? He said, I had the same reaction when I first got here. The very first time I went on this same exact highway. And then he kind of got tears in his eyes. He's like, I know what you mean. And he's like, I was holding back because, I didn't want to cry in front of you because I felt stupid, right? I'm like, no, it's cool. So then we just kind of drove in silence and cried for like the next 10 minutes. And then we laughed a whole lot about it. Then he put on some kick-ass jazz, and we just really enjoyed our time together. But it's important, and with this wave that just came through, this is not just building our relationship as earthlings to God. It's building everyone's consciousness up, higher vibration across all galaxies, all universes, even what we consider to be the hostile alien races, the violent ones, they just got a boost as well. They just got the love of God as well. When hundreds of thousands of people will start next year to wake up, it's quite possible that it's going to happen, not just on our planet, but on all of them. I have no idea what's happening, like throughout the whole universe, obviously, because I'm just me. I'm just Elena living on Earth, third rock from the sun in our particular solar system. I don't even know the name of our solar system. What would we call it? What do we call it? Do we have a name for our whole solar system? And we have a name for each individual planet, Pluto, Venus, etc. But do we have a name for the collection of planets that is our solar system? I mean, if not, I want to call it Fred. I mean, I like living in Fred. Fred's a cool solar system. Name it after my father. We could, and even we could name it after Reverend Ike and my dad. How's that? We'll just call it Frederick. We'll just say Frederick. Yeah. Frederick is the best solar system around. Of course, it's the only solar system I know. Maybe it's not the best. I don't know. Might be a better one. But, I don't know. The more we learn about the galaxy and the universe and the dimensions, and the more I personally learn about this stuff just from my own astral travels and my sending my consciousness to different places. I had a really strange experience today I want to share with you guys. I went shopping for my youngest son for Christmas, and there was a special gift I wanted to buy him that I saw at this place the last time I was there, but they had absolutely none on the shelves when I went. I went by myself because I didn't want him to see what I was getting him, even though he guessed. He's master psychic. He's always been so psychic. It's in his DNA for sure. His father was extremely psychic. You could think about a gift you wanted to buy his father and just think about for 5 seconds, and he would turn to you and be like, you're thinking about getting me that sweater or that album or whatever. He was like that. He was like that psychic. He's just like, in 2 seconds, he'd catch it. I see what you want to get me. It's like, damn it, I'm never going to surprise you. He's like, yeah. So it's like if I ever bought him something, I had to absolutely never think about it, or he would know what I got him. I surprised him a couple times, but he like I'd buy him books that he never heard of. That's the only way I could get away with him not guessing beforehand. But my son's the same, and he guessed exactly what I wanted to buy him. So I had other things in mind that weren't the big gift, and I still have to go tomorrow now to find the big gift. And if I can't find it, I'm going to have to give him a piece of paper that says I owe you this particular gift, because it's funny because it's something he really, really, really wants too, and it's for cooking, and it's like it would be his first appliance that he's ever owned, and he's like, oh my God, he's like just 10 minutes away from being an adult. He wants to be a chef. He's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have my first appliance. It's so exciting. So I'm excited to get it for him, to be honest. It's really cool. So anyway, so we were, I was out by myself and my son was at home, and he was cleaning the house. He was sweeping the living room and the dining room today, because I had done, my room and bathroom and kitchen yesterday. So we're kind of divvying up the rooms together and figuring it all out. But but I was hot, like so hot, like beyond what I've been feeling just sitting here talking to you guys. When the rushes of energy come in, we got another wave this afternoon, and it just it was frickin' amazingly intense. I mean, I felt like I was lifting up out of my body. I felt like my memory was being wiped out. I was like looking at everybody, I was smiling at people, and I think I was looking normal, but I just did not even feel human anymore. I felt like so strange. Like I felt just completely, not really disconnected from people, but connected to them in a higher vibrational way. And so I felt a lot of love and compassion for everybody, but at the same time, I did not feel connected to this world. I was somewhere else. I mean, I wasn't like literally somewhere else. They could actually see me. So all of a sudden I started getting really weird. My stomach started to hurt. I was like, oh my God. I got so hot and my stomach hurt. I went, oh my God, if I'm getting really sick, I need to get the hell home, like as soon as possible. But I still had to get all my stuff because I'm like, what if tomorrow I won't be able to go shopping or whatever? So I was still like, I was running around, got every single thing except the eggs. And I went through the whole store twice, and it's a huge store, and I couldn't find the eggs. I'm like, man, I know they have eggs. This is stupid. And I said, okay, God, what aisle? Because I don't feel good. What aisle? And he said, aisle 21. I'm like, okay, cool. So I went to aisle 21, standing there, and I looked, and there was this little old lady, probably 15, 20 years older than me, and she had one thing in her hand, and I had a cart full of stuff. I'm like, mommy, that's like a way it's like kind of a sweet way you say mommy, like mommy and papi, like mamacita, papacita, mama, papa sort of thing. So I said, mommy, por favor, and sigues, enfrente, please go in front of me. And she's like, really? Is it okay? I'm like, sure. Seguro. Yeah, claro que sí. Of course, yes. Go ahead of me, because first of all, it's against the law to not allow the person that's older than you to go in front of you. And second of all, it was super unfair because she only had one thing. And even though I'm like dying, I feel like, oh my God, I might faint at any minute. I'm so freaking hot. But I told her, and when I told her she could go ahead of me, I looked, and right behind her was the eggs. So my act of charity became like my reward to find the one thing I was missing so that we can make cookies. So I'm like, well, yeah, all right, this is cool. This is very, very cool, as a matter of fact. And so we were, her husband was in another line, and she's like, yeah, but he's got some things, and he had like 4 things in his hands. How cute. Like, I'm going to be worried about 5 things when my cart is filled of stuff, I had like 20 items. And so, or maybe even 30, because I had like a lot of little things. I had like, Esencia de Vanilla, what is that even in English? A vanilla extract. Sorry. Yeah. Vanilla extract. I just had my cooking stuff, like the little sprinkles to go on sugar cookies. And so anyway, I let her go ahead of me, but then her husband's line went faster. He was in a different line. So that she went over there to him. And the guy behind me had one item, so I offered him the same deal. And he's like, no. And he knows the law, right? When you're like kind of acutely aware of the law that, old people come first. And I was clearly older than him, so the oldest people go first. We have less time to live, so we should have less time standing in lines. Ecuador is a crazy country, but I really love the laws here because they make sense, but they're just like so sweet towards other people. Like all the laws, even the laws towards criminals here are sweet. It's very weird. It's awesome though. It's wonderful. But anyway, so I'm standing in line. This guy's like dealing with his phone, so I'm all by myself. Like no one's looking at me. So cool. I could ask God, what the hell's going on with my body? Is this like for sure menopause suddenly out of nowhere, and I'm having the massive hot flash of my life, or what is this? And God said, well, all you need to do is focus on that eggplant purple hat, that isosceles triangle thing, like from the top of our head to like however tall you are. If you're 6 feet tall, it's 6 feet tall, but I'm 5 feet tall. So my hat or whatever is basically the top part of my Merkaba. He's like, we have to build it. So he's like, just focus on that. It's going to take away the ascension symptoms from the wave. It's a cosmic energy wave that just came in, and you have to disperse it slowly. But to fix your stomach and the way that you feel heat wise, he said, imagine that hat thing, but also take your body back into the past spiral the energy down, lower the vibration of your body temporarily to take your body back into the past. Remember, I told you guys before, I was doing this with coffee. I was taking it back into the past where it was hot still. If my coffee was cold, and I would heat my coffee up like that. Well, I imagined a spiral, like a coil around my body, spiraling down and putting me in the vibration of an hour ago. And when I did that, all of a sudden I felt completely fine. I wasn't hot anymore. My stomach didn't hurt anymore. I was totally fine. And so between waiting for the manager to get the change so the lady could give cash to people, and then waiting for a taxi, that the taxis didn't seem to realize that we're all standing in line in the order in which we have been waiting. They were like someone like 20-year-old to come up and they get a taxi like in 2 seconds, but I've been sitting there 10 minutes, and there was 2 families with little kids and an elderly couple, and they had already been there like when I got there, right? So I finally started like asking God to help me, and I was like directing the taxis to the people with families and to the older couple. You know, because it's just like, come on, guys, you know, I know it's Christmas. People are stressed, they're trying to get home, the whole thing. But, you know, when people have little kids, they're like rubbing their eyes and on the verge of screaming, it's time to get the kids in the car, right? You know, so I have a lot more awareness than I did like years ago of how all the people around me are feeling, what they're doing, what are their needs. I put other people's needs, you know, in front of mine if I feel like their need to get home as fast is like more pressing than my need. Even though mine, I was like, well, I've only got like a half hour left before my body catches up to the current time. My stomach's going to start hurting again. But I got home and everything was fine. And I felt hot again. And I just splashed my face with water and I meditated a little bit. And then all that energy was then dissipated into the earth. And God told me via telepathy that all light workers on the planet, and if you guys are light workers, if you're a light worker, this is going to happen for you too, that you absorb more energy than the people around you that are asleep. And then when you meditate and you dissipate into the earth, it goes slowly so that people around you will wake up gently, not harshly. It's not going to be a quick spiritual awakening. It'll be gradual over days versus in 2 seconds. You know, so no one likes to be jolted awake. And that's why if you're a light worker, you're going to feel a lot more than the people around you. And people are like, are you sure? Is there even science to back that up? You know, I've had people ask me that recently. Is there any science backing up what you're saying? It's like, yeah, you could go to this website and that website and go to this YouTube channel. And these are all cosmologists and people who analyze space weather and NASA and NOAA and, you know, NOAA, you know, like, yeah, there's a lot of science backing up the energy waves and the supernova that star that went supernova and the pulse waves that are coming our way, and the magnetar, they'll be coming our way like in May or something. It's really a long ways off, and it's a slower traveling thing, I think. But I don't know what we're going to do then. I think we'll be in the 5th dimension by the time it hits. So I don't even want to talk about it. It's just too intense to think about right now. I will tell you guys more about it later, probably next year. All right, so we have four headlines only right now for the Watchers news. The first one is shallow 6.0 earthquake hits off the coast of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, in Canada. So I thought that was pretty cool. And Australia is on fire. We already knew that, but it's just on and on. It's still going on. 9 people have been killed and more than 800 homes are destroyed. Nearly 100 fires in NSW, I think that's New South Wales, and hotspots in every state. Well, remember, that happened in the U.S. just like a couple months ago. Now it's happening in Australia. I guess it's their turn. I don't know. Very hot gas and steam emissions continue at White Island volcano. The death toll increases to 19 people in New Zealand. It's not on watchers.news, but I did read an article about a 3,500-year-old series of tombs were discovered on a new archaeological site in Greece, and they were originally lined with gold. So someone very important was buried there. I look forward to hearing more and more updates on that story. It sounds absolutely marvelous. That's a perfect find for an archaeologist. All right. Studies suggest a current loss of species should be called the seventh extinction. The biodiversity crisis we experience today, defined by rapid loss of species and rapid degradation of ecosystems, is believed to be the sixth mass extinction. However, some scientists should say it should perhaps be called the seventh, suggesting the inclusion of the end of the Guadalupian in the big five mass extinctions, which are End Ordovician, 444 million years ago. 86% of species were lost. The late Devonian, 375 million years ago, 75% of species were lost. The End Permian, 252 million years ago, 96% of species were lost. 96? Holy crap. So I didn't even know about this stuff. The End Triassic, 200 million years ago, 80% of species were lost. And the End Cretaceous period, 66 million years ago, when 76% of all species were lost. So it's kind of normal, things come, things go, nothing lasts forever. Whether it's, all the species on a planet or a bag of licorice, nothing lasts forever. The End Permian was said to be the greatest extinction event of all time. Yeah, 96%. At that period, the mass extinction from the End Permian overshadowed another extinction 8 million years earlier, at the end of the Guadalupian epoch. So over the last 30 years, geologists have been delving deeper into the End Guadalupian, widely known as a distinct crisis. Now, scientists are arguing that this ancient annihilation was huge enough to rank among the pantheon of previous apocalypses, and they suggest renaming the group of major extinction events as the Big Six. There have been many setbacks in history, but by studying the biggest ones, experts can begin to unearth patterns and seek common causes. Increasing evidence suggests many global extinction events were linked with oxygen depletion in the oceans. And the End Guadalupian fits this. Well, geez, hell's bells, people. That's kind of what we're going through right now. I think there's a problem with hanging on to the number 5. A marine paleoecologist named Richard Bombach said. He's a professor emeritus of paleontology at Virginia Tech and was a reviewer on the landmark Sepkowski-Raup paper. I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. I'm not that much of a geek. Okay, I have to look that up. Actually, I probably am. I will probably start geeking out the more I read this website, to be honest. The End Permian came much closer to wiping out entire life on Earth, when you base it on the percentages anyway. And it was shockingly bad for biodiversity. So, it says the end of the Guadalupian epoch is marked by the Emeshan traps in southwestern China, a monument to a lava flood that exploded in the ocean 260 million years ago. The event spewed plumes of methane and carbon dioxide that devastated the climate and caused 60% of the marine species to die. Flood basalts like the Emeshan traps exist all over the planet, and they've been shown to line up with the Big Five. It's a 1-to-1 correlation. says a geologist at New York University, Michael Rampino. But geologists studying mass extinctions were not usually looking for flood basalts. That's interesting. So this goes on and on. They're talking about there's even bigger Siberian traps. So basically in Siberia, there's even more volcanic. Anyway, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but they said that giant mollusks with shells that look like alien cruisers went extinct, and other species, nautilus-like cephalopods called ammonites, also vanished forever. I mean, there was like the water in the ocean was acidic because of all the underground floods of lava coming from underground volcanoes. I mean, if you recall from Hawaii, they were talking about this all the time, that when lava hits ocean water, it turns into hydrochloric acid. It's like, damn, that is freaking nasty. There are some really crazy ways that God could just blow up the planet, you know? So basically, if we are in the process of a mass extinction, we're going towards the seventh one. And that's funny because the number 7, there's a tribe in Canada. I met these guys in Canada. I mean, I met them in Ojai, California, but they're from Canada. And their band was called The Generation of the Seventh Fire. And I'm like, what do you mean, seventh fire? And they said, well, we're the 7th generation, the 7th group that will face the end of the world as we know it. And we're headed towards that now. We've gone through 6 others like it, and this is the 7th one. And I'm like, wow, so an ancient native wisdom that's been passed down through generations, thousands of years, maybe, possibly millions, I don't know. But they know, they just know. They've got that intuitive knowledge about this. So, interesting stuff, right? Okay, let's go to the Schumann resonance news today. I'm going to look at the chart. A couple bits of activity. All right, so what they have to say for themselves. Power 34, isolated at 10:30 UTC, was all the activity for today. All right. That's what they said. They said that, but I see there's a white pillar that they didn't talk about. But Italy is still, it's low compared to the other places. Oh my God. Now earlier I had everything queued up for the heartmath.org, and now they're saying, sorry, the data is temporarily unavailable. It wasn't too much different than yesterday's, but still, with Africa up in the 270 range or 260 range, and everyone else was in the double digits. I think one was in the hundreds, the low hundreds, like 113 or something. But dagnabbit, it's just now their website shut down. So one place on earth. That's all we get today for the Schumann Resonance News. Lesson 195 in A Course in Miracles. That's where we're at. And the main thought for this, for the Foundation of Inner Peace, acim.org. This is the main thought for today. Love is the way I walk in gratitude. Love is the way I walk in gratitude. Gratitude is a lesson hard to learn for those who look upon the world amiss. The most they can do is see themselves as better off than others. And they try to be content because another seems to suffer more than they. How pitiful and deprecating are such thoughts. For who has cause for thanks while others have less cause? And who could suffer less because he sees another suffer more? Your gratitude is due to him alone who made all cause of sorrow disappear throughout the world. It is insane to offer thanks because of suffering, but it is equally insane to fail in gratitude to one who offers you the certain means whereby all pain is healed and suffering replaced with laughter and with happiness. Nor could the even partly sane refuse to take the steps which he directs and follows in the way he sets before them to escape a prison that they thought contained no door to the deliverance they now perceive. So I'm not going to read the rest of the lesson because we've got to move on tonight. This is 10 paragraphs long. Not too bad. Okay. Not too bad at all. So you can download an app that says A Course in Miracles. There's many of them. Or you can go to acim.org, which is the Foundation for Inner Peace original website. And again, the lesson is 195. Love is the way I walk in gratitude. There you have it. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to just pick up where we left off last week by reading today's installment of the Spirits book right after these messages. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. All right, guys, this is the Spirits book. I believe we're on part 14, maybe 15, but I think it's 14. This is a book written or published in Paris, France, in 1857 by Allan Kardec. You could go see the movie Kardec right now on Netflix, so you can understand who this guy is and what he had to go through just to get this information. It's a really good movie. I highly recommend it. If you are interested in how authors get stuff done and what went on behind the scenes. But this book is about a man who asked a bunch of mediums in Paris to answer a series of like 1,000 questions. And we're about halfway through. We're at 541. And we're a little bit more than halfway through. And all the mediums that did not even know each other answered the same way, and it gave him pause. He was part of a research society who rejected him immediately because he was engaging the mediums and no one would listen to his research. But nonetheless, he published it as a book. It went all over the world before the Catholic Church got a hold of it and decided to have massive book burnings throughout Europe to kill this book. Too late. Oh well. So sad. Too bad. It was widely received happily by people throughout Brazil and eventually South America. So what I'm reading to you tonight is translated from French into Portuguese into English. That's like quite a lot, right? Okay. We are on the section called Spirits During a Battle. Question 541. When a battle is being fought, are there spirits who assist and support each party? The spirits answer, yes, and who stimulate their courage. And Allan Kardec added his own explanation. He says, the ancients represented the gods as taking part with such and such a people. The gods were nothing else than spirits represented under allegorical figures. Question 542. In every war, the right is only on one side. How can spirits take the part of the one which is in the wrong? The spirits answer, you know very well that there are spirits who seek only discord and destruction. For them, war is war. They care little whether it be just or unjust. Fair enough. Question 543. Can spirits influence a general in the planning of a campaign? The spirits say, without any doubt, spirits can use their influence for this object as for all other conceptions. Question 544. Could hostile spirits suggest to him unwise combinations in order to ruin him? The spirits say, yes, but has he not his free will? If his judgment do not enable him to distinguish between a good idea and a bad idea, he will have to bear the consequences of his blindness and would do better to obey than to command. Question 545. May a general sometimes be guided by a sort of second sight or intuitive perception that shows him beforehand the result of his combinations? The spirits say, it is often thus with a man of genius. This kind of intuition is what is called inspiration and causes him to act with a sort of certainty. It comes to him from the spirits who direct him and who act upon him through the faculties with which he is endowed. Question 546. In the tumult of battle, what becomes of the spirits of those who succumb? Do they continue to take an interest in the struggle after death? And the spirits say, some of them do so, others withdraw from it. And then he goes on to say, in the case of those who are killed in battle, as in all other cases of violent death, a spirit during the first few moments is in a state of bewilderment, and as though he were stunned. He does not know that he is dead and seems to be taking part in the action. It is only little by little that the reality of his situation becomes apparent to him. Question 547. Do the spirits of those who had fought against each other while alive still regard one another, as enemies after death? And are they still enraged against one another? Good question. Spirits say, a spirit under such circumstances is never calm. At the first moment, he may still be excited against his enemy and even pursue him. But when he has recovered his self-possession, he sees that his animosity has no longer any motive. But he may nevertheless retain some traces of it for a longer or shorter period, according to his character. Like being angry at the British for the Revolutionary War 200 years later, maybe? I wonder. Does it carry over lifetime sometimes? I mean, there's a lot of movies made about that, even still. At least, in the U.S. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, in the follow-up question, does he still perceive the clang of the battlefield? And the spirits say, yes, perfectly. Question 548. When a spirit is coolly watching a battle, as a mere spectator, does he witness the separation of the souls and bodies of those who fall? And how does this phenomenon affect him? Spirits say, very few deaths are altogether instantaneous. In most cases, a spirit whose body has just been mortally struck is not aware of it for the moment. It's when he begins to come to himself that his spirit can be seen moving beside his corpse. This appears so natural that the sight of a dead body does not produce any disagreeable effect. All the life of the individual being concentrated in his spirit, the latter alone attracts the attention of the spirits about him. It is with him that they converse, to him that orders are given. Pacts with spirits. Ooh, this ought to be rich. Question 549. Is there any truth in the idea that pacts can be entered into with evil spirits? The spirits say, no. There is no pact, but there is sympathy between an evil nature and evil spirits. For example, you wish to torment your neighbor, but you know not how to set about it, and you therefore call to your help some inferior spirits who, like yourself, only desire to do evil, and who in return for the help they give you in carrying out your wicked designs, expect you to help them with theirs. But it does not follow that your neighbor will not be able to get rid of such a conspiracy by an opposing conjuration and the action of his will. He who desires to do an evil deed calls evil spirits to his assistance by that mere desire. And he is then obliged to serve them as they have served him, for they, on their side, have need of his help in the evil they desire to do. What you call a pact simply consists in this reciprocity of assistance of evil. So Allan Kardec says about that, the subjection to evil spirits in which a man sometimes finds himself proceeds from his abandoning himself to the evil thoughts suggested by them, and not from any sort of stipulations between them and him. The idea of a pact, in the sense commonly attached to that word, is a figurative representation of the sympathy which exists between a bad man and malicious spirits. Question 550. What is the meaning of the fantastic legends of persons selling their soul to Satan, in order to obtain from him certain favors? Spirits say, all fables contain a teaching and a moral. Your mistake is taking them literally. The one you refer to is an allegory that may thus be explained. He who calls evil spirits to his aid in order to obtain from them the gifts of fortune or any other favor rebels against providence. He draws back from the mission he has received and from the trials he was to have undergone in this earthly life, and he will reap the consequences of this rebellion in the life to come. By this we do not mean to say that his soul is condemned to misery forever, but as instead of detaching himself from matter, he plunges himself deeper and deeper into it. His enjoyment of earthly pleasures will only have led to his suffering in the spirit world until he shall have redeemed himself from the thraldom of evil by new trials, perhaps heavier and more painful than those against which now he rebels. Through his indulgence in material pleasures, he brings himself under the power of impure spirits, and thus establishes between them and him a tacit compact which leads him to his ruin, but which is always easy for him to break with the assistance of higher spirits, if he have the firm determination to do so. All right, now we're at the section called Occult Power, Talismans, and Sorcerers. That is so cool. Okay, question 551. 551. Can a bad man, with the aid of a bad spirit who is at his orders, cause harm to his neighbor? The spirits say no, God would not permit it. Question 552. What is to be thought of the belief in the power of certain persons to throw a spell over others? The spirits say certain persons possess a very strong magnetic power of which they may make a bad use if their own spirit is bad. And in that case, they may be seconded by other bad spirits, but do not attach belief to any pretended magical power which exists only in the imagination of superstitious people, ignorant of the true laws of nature. The facts adduced to prove the existence of this pretended power are facts which are really due to the action of natural causes that have been imperfectly observed and, above all, imperfectly understood. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of issue with this. Remember, I asked God, and he said 92% of this book is absolutely real. And 8%, the spirits who are at specific levels that, and they might just be his people. They're in sympathy with him, following him around from medium to medium, answering his questions, which I think is why the answers are always the same. They're probably really irritated with him for asking them the same question over and over again, because he doesn't understand why he keeps getting the same answers, right? So he's just trying to prove that spirits are real through that. So he's not proving that there are different spirits for different mediums. See, I think they're tapping into his group of people that are in sympathy with him. And he doesn't know all the things he knows, and neither do they, maybe. Just because someone's dead doesn't make them suddenly a wise ascended master. I've studied a lot about metaphysics, but that doesn't make me a master either. I might be knowledgeable, wise, I'm working on, for sure. Sometimes I get there. Sometimes I achieve moments of clarity in the realm of wisdom. But I don't know. I'm looking at this going, well, okay. I know that magic is real, but I also know that magic is part of the natural laws of the universe. It's not outside of the natural laws of the universe. It's just that we don't have a handle and a grasp of all the laws of the universe yet. If that makes sense. And maybe that's what they're meaning, but I'm not sure. But let's move on with the book, though. Question 553. What is the effect of the formulas and practices by the aid of which certain persons profess to be able to control the wills of spirits? And the spirits say, their only effect is to render such persons ridiculous. If they really put faith in them, and if they do not, they are rogues who deserve to be punished. All such formulas are mere jugglery. There is no sacramental word, no Kabbalistic sign, no talisman that has any power over spirits. For spirits are attracted by thought and by nothing material, not by anything material. So he says, have not Kabbalistic formulas been sometimes dictated by spirits? And they say, yes, there are spirits who give you strange signs and words, prescribe certain acts, which the aid of which you perform what you call conjurations, but you may very well be sure that such spirits are making a game of you and amusing themselves with your credulity. So, I don't know. I think that they don't totally understand what... See, he was a scientist, and in the beginning he wasn't led to believe this at all. So that's who he was attracting. So, take it, some of this stuff with a grain of salt. I feel like maybe, I don't know. Okay, question 554. Is it not possible that he who, rightly or wrongly, has confidence in what he calls the virtue of a talisman may attract spirit to him by that very confidence? For in that case, it would be his thought that acts, the talisman being only a sign that helps to concentrate and direct his thought. And the spirits say such an action is quite possible, but the nature of the spirit thus attracted would depend on the purity of intention and elevation of sentiment of the party attracting him. It rarely happens that one who is simple enough to believe in the virtue of a talisman is not actuated by motives of a material rather than moral character. At all events, such practices imply a pettiness and weakness of mind that would naturally give access to imperfect and mocking spirits. See, I don't think that they truly know. I mean, for 33 years, I've studied metaphysics. I've gone to mystery schools, and there are certain talismans that are 100% have a high vibration, and a high vibration will get rid of the lower vibrational spirits who do not like it. You have something in your house that is of a super high vibrational, like love energy. The spirits are not attracted to that high vibrational energy. They won't come near you. And I have seen it and witnessed it with my own eyes, that I have done paintings with the Ho'oponopono process, and there are reports, there's actual scientific reports of a man who used words to clear out an entire insane asylum full of people who were criminally insane and violent. And to this day, that hospital remains closed because in that part of Honolulu, Hawaii, there are no insane people anymore, let alone criminally insane, that need to be locked up because of the Ho'oponopono process. So I think these spirits are scientists that died, and they're hanging out with a scientist who's researching the same thing. So they're telling him what they believe to be true, maybe not what is the truth. I don't know, just had to bring that up. So, question 555. What meaning should we attach to the qualification of sorcerer? The spirits say, those whom you call sorcerers are persons gifted, when they are honest, with certain exceptional faculties, like the mesmeric power or second sight. And as such persons do things that you do not comprehend, you suppose them to be endowed with supernatural power. Have not many of you learned men passed for sorcerers in the eyes of the ignorant? See, so they're saying the sorcerers are real, magic's real, it's just that it's not unnatural or supernatural. This I agree with. Question 556. Do some persons really possess the gift of healing by merely touching the sick? And the spirits say, the mesmeric power may act to that extent when it is seconded by purity of intention and ardent desire to do good. For in such a case, good spirits come to the aid of the mesmerizer. But you must be on your own guard against the way in which facts are exaggerated when recounted by persons who, being too credulous or too enthusiastic, are disposed to discover something marvelous in the simplest and most natural occurrences. You must also be on your guard against the interested recitals of people who work on credulity with a view to their own benefit. Okay, now we're on this section called Benedictions and Curses. Question 557. Do benedictions and curses draw down good and evil on those who are the object of them? And the spirits say, God does not listen to an unjust malediction, and he who utters it is guilty in his eyes. As we are subjected to two opposite influences, good and evil, a curse may have a momentary action even upon matter, but this action can never take place unless by the will of God, and as an increase of trial for him who is its object. Besides, curses are usually bestowed on the wicked, benedictions on the good. Yeah, but unless there's someone who's evil doing something to someone who's good, right? I mean, they didn't consider everything in the statement. Anyway, getting back to it, they say, but neither blessing nor cursing can ever turn aside the justice of providence, which only strikes the one who is cursed if he is wicked, and only favors the one who is blessed if he merits its protection. All right, now we're in the section called Occupations and Missions of Spirits. Question 558. Have spirits anything else to do but to work out their own personal amelioration? The answer, they cooperate in the production of the harmony of the universe by executing the volitions of God, whose ministers they are. Spirit life is a continual occupation, but one that has nothing in common with the painful labor of the earthly life, because there is in it neither bodily fatigue nor the anguish of bodily wants. Question 559. Do inferior and imperfect spirits also subserve any useful end in the universe? The spirits say, all have duties to fill. Does not the lowest mason concur in the building of an edifice as really as the architect? Question 560. Has each spirit special attributes? Answer. We all have to inhabit all regions and to acquire knowledge of all things by presiding successively over all the details of the universe. But, as is said in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything. Thus, one spirit is accomplishing his destiny at the present day in your world, another will accomplish his or has already accomplished it at another period upon the earth, in the water, in the air, etc. Question 561. Are the functions discharged by spirits in the economy of things permanent on the part of each spirit, or do they constitute the exclusive attributes of certain classes? Answer. All spirits have to ascend all the steps of the ladder in order to attain to perfection. God, who is just, has not willed to give science to some without labor, while others only acquire it through painful effort. Allan Kardec adds his thought. He says, thus among men no one arrives at the highest degree of skill of any part without having acquired the necessary knowledge through the practice of that art in all its degrees, from the lowest upwards. Question 562. Spirits of the highest order have nothing more to acquire. Are they in a state of absolute repose, or have they two occupations? Answer from the spirits. Can you suppose that they remain idle through eternity? Eternal idleness would be eternal torture. Follow-up question. What is the nature of their occupations? They answer. They receive orders directly from God, transmit them through the universe, and superintend their execution. Question 563. Are spirits incessantly occupied? Answer. Incessantly? Yes, if it be understood that their thought is always active, for they live by thought. But you must not suppose that the occupations of spirits are similar to the material occupations of men. Their activity is itself a delight through the consciousness they have of being useful. Follow-up. That is easily understood as regards to good spirits, but is it the same in regard to inferior spirits? They answer. Inferior spirits have occupations suitable to their nature. Would you entrust intellectual undertakings to an ignorant laborer? Question 564. Are there among spirits some who are idle or who do not employ themselves in anything useful? Answer. Yes, but that idleness is only temporary and depends on the involvement of their intelligence. Certainly there are among spirits as among men some who live only for themselves, but their idleness weighs upon them, and sooner or later the desire to advance causes them to feel the need of activity, and they are glad to make themselves useful. We speak of spirits arrived at the point at which they possess self-consciousness and free will. For at their origin, they are now newborn children and act more from instinct than from a determinate will. Question 565. Do spirits examine our works of art and take an interest in them? The spirits say, they examine whatever indicates the elevation of incarnated spirits and the progress. Question 566. Does the spirit who has had a special occupation on the earth, as a painter or architect, for example, take a special interest in the labors which have formed the object of his predilections during the earthly life? Spirits say, everything blends into one general aim. A good spirit interests himself in whatever enables him to assist other souls in rising towards God. Besides, a spirit who has devoted to a given pursuit in the existence for which you have known him may have been devoted to some other in another existence. For In order to be perfect, he must know everything. Thus, in virtue of his greater advancement, there may be no specialty for him, a fact to which I alluded in saying that everything blends into one general aim. Take note also that what seems sublime to you in your backward world would be mere child's play in worlds of greater advancement. How can you suppose that the spirits who inhabit those worlds in which there exist arts and where there exist arts and sciences unknown to you, could admire what, in their eyes, is only the work of a tyro? And follow-up question. We can easily conceive that this should be the case with very advanced spirits, but our question referred to more commonplace spirits, to those who've not yet raised themselves above terrestrial ideas. The spirits say, with them it's different. Their mental outlook is narrower, and they may admire what you yourselves admire. Question 567. Do spirits ever take part in our occupations and pleasures? The spirits say, commonplace spirits, as you call them, do so. They are incessantly about you and take in all you do, a part which is sometimes a very active one, according to their nature, and it is necessary that they should do so in order to push men on in the different walks of life and to excite or moderate their passions. At this moment, Allan Kardec adds, spirits busy themselves with the things of this world in proportion to their elevation or their inferiority. The higher spirits have undoubtedly the power of looking into the minutest details of earthly things, but they only do so when it will be useful to progress. Spirits of lower rank attribute to such things a degree of importance proportioned to their remembrances of the earthly life and to the earthly ideas which are not yet extinct in their memory. Question 568. When spirits are charged with a mission, do they accomplish it in the state of erraticity or in the state of incarnation? Answer. They may be charged with a mission in either state. They are wandering spirits to whom such missions furnish much occupation. Question 569. What are the missions with which wandering spirits may be charged? Answer. They are so varied that it would be impossible to describe them, and there are some of them that you could not comprehend. Spirits execute the volitions of God, and you are not able to penetrate all his designs. Now, Allan Kardec added his section to it. He said, the missions of spirits have always good for their object. Whether in the spirit state or as men, they are charged to help forward the progress of humanity, of peoples, or of individuals, within a range of ideas more or less extensive, more or less special, to pave the way for certain events, to superintend the accomplishment of certain things. The missions of some spirits are of narrower scope and may be said to be personal or even local, as the helping of the sick, the dying, the afflicted, to watch over those of whom they become the guides and protectors, and to guide them by their counsels or by the wholesome thoughts they suggest. It may be said that there are as many sorts of spirit missions as there are sorts of interests to watch over, whether in the physical world or in the moral world, and each spirit advances in proportion to the fidelity with which he accomplishes his task. Question 570. Do spirits always comprehend the designs they are charged to execute? Answer. No, some of them are mere blind instruments, but others fully understand the aim they are working out. Question 571. Is it only elevated spirits who have missions to fulfill? Answer. The importance of a mission is always proportioned to the capacities and elevation of the spirit charged with it. But the estafette who conveys a dispatch fulfills a mission, though one which is not that of the general. Question 572. Is it a spirit's mission imposed upon him, or does it depend on his own will? Answer. He asks for it and is rejoiced to obtain it. Follow-up question. May the same mission be demanded by several spirits? Answer: yes, there are often several candidates for the same mission, but they are not all accepted. Question 573. In what does the mission of incarnated spirits consist? Their answer: in instructing men and aiding their advancement, and in ameliorating their institutions by direct material means. These missions are more or less general and important, but he who tills the ground accomplishes the mission as really as he who governs or instructs. Everything in nature is linked together, and each spirit, while purifying himself by his incarnation, concurs under the human form to the accomplishment of the providential plans. Each of you has a mission because each of you can be useful in some way or other. Question 574. What can the mission of those who, in this life, are willfully idle? Answer by the spirits: it is true that there are human beings who live only for themselves and who do not make themselves useful in any way. They are much to be pitied, for they will have to expiate their voluntary inutility by severe sufferings, and their chastisement often begins even in their present existence through their weariness and disgust of life. Follow-up question. Since they had the freedom of choice, why did they choose a life which could not be of any use to them? Answer: among spirits, as among men, there are lazy ones who shrink from a life of labor. God lets them take their own way. They will learn by and by, and to their cost, the bad effects of their uselessness, and will then eagerly demand to be allowed to make up for lost time. It may be also that they had chosen a more useful life, but have subsequently recoiled from the trial, and allowed themselves to be misled by the suggestions of spirits who encourage them in their inactivity. Question 575. The common occupations of everyday life appear to us to be duties rather than missions, properly so called. A mission, according to the idea we attach to this word, is characterized by our importance, of the importance. I guess they didn't translate from the French. Translate that. A mission, according to the idea we attach to this word, is characterized by the importance less exclusive and especially less personal. From this point of view, okay, it's supposed to be how, again, typos. How can we ascertain that a man has really a mission upon this earth? The answer of the spirits: by the greatness of the results he accomplishes, and the progress he causes to be made by his fellow men. Cool. Question 576. Are those who have received an important mission predestined, therefore, before their birth, and are they aware of it? Answer: yes, in some cases, but more often they are not aware of it. They are only vaguely conscious of an aim in coming upon the earth. Their mission reveals itself to them gradually after their birth through the action of circumstances. God leads them on into the road which they are to take for the accomplishment of his designs. Question 577. When a man does anything useful, is it always in virtue of an anterior and predestined mission, or may he receive a mission not previously foreseen? Spirits answer: everything a man does is not the result of a predestined mission. He is often the instrument of a spirit who makes use of him in order to procure the execution of something he considers useful. For example, a spirit thinks it would be useful to publish a book, which he would write himself if he were incarnate. He seeks out the writer who will be the fittest to comprehend and develop his idea. He suggests to him the plan of the work and directs him in its execution. In such a case, the man did not come into the world with the mission of doing this work. It is the same in regard to various works of art or scientific discoveries. During the sleep of his body, the incarnated spirit communicates directly with the spirit in erraticity, and the two take counsel together for the carrying out of the undertaking. Question 578. May spirit fail in its mission through his own fault? And the spirits say yes, if he's not of a high degree of elevation. Follow-up question, what for him are the consequences of such a failure? Spirits say, he is obliged to begin his task all over again. That is his punishment. And besides, he will have to undergo the consequences of the mischiefs caused by his failure. 579. Since it is from God that each spirit receives his mission, how can God have entrusted an important mission, one of general interest, to a spirit capable of failing in its discharge? Answer. Does not God foresee whether his general will be victorious or vanquished? Be sure that he foresees all things, and that the carrying out of his plans, when they are important, is never confided to those who will leave their work half done. The whole difficulty lies for you in the foreknowledge of the future which God possesses, but which you cannot understand. Question 580. When a spirit has incarnated himself for the accomplishment of a mission, does he feel the same anxiety in regard to it as a spirit whose missions have been undertaken as a trial? And the spirits say no, for he has results of experience to guide him. Question 581. The men who enlighten the human race by their genius have certainly a mission, but there are among them many who make mistakes and who will, along with important truths, spread abroad serious errors. In what way should we regard their mission? The spirits say, as having been falsified by themselves. They are unequal to the task they have undertaken. In judging of them, however, you must take into account the circumstances in which they have been placed. Men of genius have had to speak according to their time, and teachings which appear erroneous or puerile in the light of a later epoch may have been sufficient for the epoch in which they were given. Question 582. Can paternity be considered a mission? I guess maternity obviously is in that as well. The spirits say it is undeniably a mission, and also a most serious duty, the responsibilities of which will exercise a more important influence upon his future than a man is apt to suppose. God has placed the child under the tutelage of his parents in order that they should direct his steps into the path of rectitude, and he has facilitated their task by giving to the child a frail and delicate organization that renders him accessible to new impressions. But there are many parents who take more pains to train the trees in their gardens and to make them bring forth a large crop of fine fruit than to train the character of the child. If the latter succumbs through their fault, they will bear the punishment of their unfaithfulness, and the sufferings of the child in a future life will come home to them, because they have not done their part towards helping him forward on the road to happiness. Question 583. If a child goes wrong, notwithstanding the care of the parents, are they responsible? And the spirits say no. But the more vicious the disposition of the child, and the heavier their task, the greater will be their reward if they succeed in drawing away from the evil road. Very nice. And the follow-up question, if a child becomes a good man despite the negligence or bad example of the parents, do the latter obtain any benefit therefrom? And the spirits only say, God is just. Question 584. What can be the mission of the conqueror whose only aim is the satisfaction of his ambition, and who, in order to attain that end, does not shrink from inflicting calamities he brings in his train? And the spirits say, he is generally only an instrument used by God for the accomplishment of his designs, and these calamities are sometimes a means of making a people advance more rapidly. And the follow-up question, the good that may result from these passing calamities is foreign to him who has been the instrument in producing them. Since he had only proposed himself a personal aim, will he nevertheless profit by that result? The spirits say, each is rewarded according to his works. the good he has wished to 40, and the uprightness of his intentions. I don't know why it says wished to 40. Maybe it means wished to do. That would make more sense. I'll reread it. Each is rewarded according to his works, the good he has wished to do, and the uprightness of his intentions. Yeah, it makes more sense. Lots of typos. I'm looking. 4 is only 2 keys above the D, so that must have been what they meant to do. All right, do. Allan Kardec adds some thoughts to this. He says, spirits, while incarnated, have occupations inherent in the nature of their corporeal existence. In the state of erraticity or of dematerialization, their occupations are proportioned to their degree of advancement. Some of them journey from world to world, acquiring instruction and preparing for a new incarnation. Others, more advanced, devote themselves to the cause of progress by directing the course of events and suggesting propitious ideas. They assist the men of genius who help forward the advancement of the human race. Others incarnate themselves again with the mission of progress. Others take under their care individuals, families, societies, cities, countries, and peoples and become their guardian angels, protecting genii, and familiar spirits. Others again preside over the phenomena of nature of which they are their immediate agents. The great mass of spirits of lower rank busy themselves with our occupations and take part in our amusements. Impure and imperfect spirits await in sufferings and anguish the moment when it shall please God to furnish them with the means of advancing. If they do harm, it's through spite against the happiness which they're not yet able to share. All right, that's it. When we come back next week, we're going to go over chapter 11, called The Three Rains. Number 1, minerals and plants. Number 2, animals and men. And number 3, metempsychosis. I don't even know what that is. That sounds amazing. All right. I mean, not that I want it. Not amazing in the way that I want it, but amazing that I'm going to learn something brand new. All right. That's it. I've been like, I don't know if you could tell, but I was moving around a lot, trying to stay awake because I feel a massive wave of energy coming through right now, and I'm burning up, absolutely burning up, and I can barely keep my eyes open. I know I'm going to start processing a whole bunch of energy any moment. So pretty cool, as I'm recording this at almost midnight California time, so almost Christmas Eve California time. So there is a massive spirit of Christmas, or maybe another spirit, or maybe just cosmic radiation or solar flare, something like that. I don't know what this is, but it's massive. I need to go, I'm going to go drink a bunch of water, because suddenly out of nowhere, I am very thirsty. I'm going to drink a bunch of water, and I'm going to hit the hay. I need to sleep. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being on this spiritual ascension journey with me and for listening to my show. Thank you for forwarding my show to your massive groups on Facebook, please. If you are in any part of New Age groups or UFO groups or anything that I talk about and other people there might be interested in similar subjects, please mention it to them that, hey, Metaphysical Soul Speak is a pretty cool podcast. You should listen to it. Metaphysical Soul Speak -- the podcast, exclamation point. That's technically what the show is called. So that's it. That's all I got to say about that. I do need we are now closed for Santa Claus and Miracle Stories, so don't send those in. But no one has sent one in, not one person. One person wrote me and said, I don't have any of these stories. I really wish I did. So that's all I got. So we're going to have to, well, you're just going to have to hear my stories only. So the other thing is, I still have not received, and we have 1 week, we're 1 week away, actually about 6.5 days away now from the new year. And I'd like to do an episode on your predictions for 2020. What do you think is going to happen? Will technology come out? Will scandals abound? What's going to happen with the world? What about the earth changes, the world changes? What is your intuition telling you? What is your higher guidance telling you? What are your scientific magazines telling you? And what have you extrapolated from that? I don't know how you arrive at it, but no matter how you arrive at it, I want to know what your predictions are for 2020. Go ahead and send those in to metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com. If you have any questions at all, please also direct it to that specific email. All right, so I'll be back tomorrow with all unique and original programming, just like always. Okay, it's actually going to be my stories about the miracles I have received on Christmas that really have no explanation. So, other than they are a miracle. So, that's it. It's going to be about that. My experiences with the Santa Claus spirit or spirit of Christmas, as well as the miracles that are surrounding him. So, there you have it. That's it, guys. I'm exhausted. I gotta go to sleep. So, signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.